Yes, as I was saying, I'm waiting for the rest of the class to enter so that we can start our work um, seriously. Okay. Well, I have prepared a style sheet for your presentations. Um, I will talk about it, and after completing it, I will send it to the group in WhatsApp, and there you will see who is going to present what um, play. Um, these have been arranged according to your selections. Those who have selected their plays, but some of you did not. For example, Ismail, you did not select your play in the previous session. So I myself, for example, I have um, chosen. I have chosen Thomas Stoppard's Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead, which is from our postmodern plays. But I'm afraid we have a problem with the date of the presentation. When rest of the classmates have entered the class, we will talk about that in more detail and we will make that clear. Okay? For example, Muhammad who have just joined us in the class, has chosen American Buffalo, which is another postmodern play. But I could not find any specific date for the presentation. That's why I want to talk about it um, in more detail. I see that Mr. Safa Saddam has just entered the class. Uh, for Safa, we have chosen Henrik Ibsen's Doll's House. Since you yourself did not selected any specific place, so randomly I have appointed you for presenting Doll's House by Henrik Ibsen, and you have to present it next week, actually, because we are going to move one by one. I will send the style sheet after being completed. Actually, it is completed. I know who is going to present what play. I have eliminated some of the plays. For example, from the Irish drama, I had to uh, take one of the works out of the list, Pygmalion by George Bernard Shaw, and from the American plays, I have eliminated uh, one of the plays um, by Eugene O'Neill, Hairy Ape. So we only have two plays from American drama, um, two from modernism, two postmodernism, three realism in drama, and one from Irish drama. I have eliminated two in order to manage to cover it up. Yes, Muhannad, as far as I remember, you have chosen American Buffalo, so I have written American Buffalo for your presentation. Yes, I will send to the group, I will send you the presentation style sheet in details. What you have to do, how you are going to present it, what information you have to cover, what is the date of your presentation, and so forth. The only problem is that for the last three presentations, I'm afraid we do not have any sessions, and we have to make extra sessions since we have started our term late. So we have to make extra classes. Now that you are in the class, there are 4 of you in the class, let me ask you, do you have any classes before this class that we are now together in the morning? For example, from 9 o'clock to 10:30? Yes, Saddam, you should do that. Very good. Yes. You make an analysis, full analysis, also by giving some information about the playwright, his other works or her other works, and then very specifically explain or analyze the the work, as you have mentioned, infographic information, and also um, the specification of, well, it can be, if necessary, yes. In some cases, it is psychological background, in some cases, historical background, that when it was written, what is the specification of that playwright, what are the name of the other works of the playwright, why they are important, and you can talk about them a little bit, but you concentrate on a name of the um, play and explain it, analyzing it, and interpreting it thoroughly, perfectly, and completely, and present it to your classmates by making a PowerPoint or a PDF text so that we can share it on the screen together. Um, Ali, you have written poet. Here we do not have a poet. We have playwrights. You mean playwrights? Uh, yes, if it is in the form of PowerPoint, that would be much better. That would be much better. Um, I'm going to repeat my question again because I didn't receive um, any answer. Do you have any classes before this class this morning on Mondays? For example, from uh, 9:30, sorry, from 9 o'clock to 10:30. Uh, because if you do not have any classes, I mean Iran time, 9 o'clock from uh, Iran time. If it is fine with all of you, all 10 of you who are in the class, we can arrange some makeup classes. And we can have some extra classes in December, for example, or the first 2 weeks of January, I suppose, before the end of the classes, the course. Okay. So If you let me, I will choose some specific dates. Let me tell you that in the presentation style sheet, I have written the Latin um, date, which is based on November, December, and January. The left-hand side, on the left-hand side, you will have the day, and on the right-hand side, you will have the month. I will choose some dates for the as in extra classes, and I think in this way we can cover both the whole course perfectly and have at least 14 or 15 sessions, and also we can have our presentations um, fully presented in the class, and that would be very, very good. Thank you for your cooperation. I think so. In 9 to 10:30 is very good. So in this case, I have to change the date of the presentations because um, we try to have the presentation chronologically, starting from the realist plays, beginning with um, Henrik Ibsen's Doll's House, which is going to be presented by Mr. Safa Saddam. Then we will move next week. We will have this presentation next week. Then we will move to August Strindberg, The Father, which is going to be presented by Mr. Haydar Hakim. Then we will move to Antoine Chekhov's The Cherry Orchard, which is going to be presented by Shima Farhad, Mr. Shima Farhad Bakhtiar. Sorry, Miss Shima Farhad Bakhtiar. Then we will move to these three are realist plays. Then we will move to Irish plays, and we will cover Sheen O'Casey's Shadow of a Gunman, which is going to be presented by Sobhi Zahir. Now remember that I have eliminated one of the Irish plays because of the limitation of time and presenters. Then we will move to the American, sorry, we will move to the modern plays, and we will cover Harold Pinter, The Birthday Party, which Mr. Mustafa Ode is going to do that, and then move to Samuel Beckett's Waiting for Godot, which is going to be presented by Mr. Ali Jaseb. And then we will move to the American plays, Arthur Miller, Death of a Salesman by Hebe Sobhi, Tennessee Williams, The Glass Menagerie by Fatan Saad, and then the last two, which are categorized under postmodern plays, Thomas Stoppart's Rosencrantz and Guildenstern's Are Dead, which is going to be presented by Ismail Abdu Hussein, and the last one is David Mamet, American Buffalo, which is going to be presented by Muhannad Khalil. I have actually chosen the dates, but now that I am sure we can have some extra classes on Mondays from 9 to 10:30, I'm going to change the dates and upgrade them up, make them to the point, and then send the individual lecture style sheet to the group in order that you can have access to it, and you can very easily know when to prepare yourself for your presentation, what you should do in your presentations, and the kind of things. If you remember, in the previous session, we have talked about the history of drama a little bit, and what generally drama is about, and how and what information we have to pay attention when we are actually dealing with the play. And then if you remember, the last thing that we came to and we had to stop and we have left it for this session was the analysis of the drama. I'm going to talk about, since for our presentation it is very important to know what things to cover apart from remember that when we are talking about analysis of a drama, it is a little bit different from interpreting it. When we analyze drama or any other literary genre, we are paying attention to the structure, to the form, to the things that the rhetorical elements that have been used and techniques, literary techniques that have been used in a domain of the literary theory within the text. For example, we find out that here the playwright has used symbols, for example, or how characters have been presented, what is the point of view, what is the setting, what is the mise en scène, or things like this, the decors, what is the function of chorus, and this kind of things. But when we are talking about interpreting the work, it means that we are going to choose a literary approach, for example, from the domain of the literary criticism. For example, from the new criticism point of view, Russian formalist point of view, psychoanalytic point of view, or from Bakhtinian point of view, Derridian point of view, Foucauldian point of view, new historicist point of view, post-colonialist point of view, feminist point of view, Marxist point of view, reader response point of view, what kind of point of view we are going to use and apply it on the text. But if you are dealing with the analysis of a drama, dramatic analysis is generally began by examining the parts of a play, plot, character, thought, diction, music, and spectacle. These are the things that actually have been categorized and mentioned by Aristotle in his very, very famous book called The Poetics, or as it has been translated into Arabic and Persian as Butiqa, or Fan She'r in Farsi. Poetics. Exactly the same elements have been mentioned by Aristotle. He believes that the most important parts in a tragedy, for example, or in a play is plot and character. And what comes next are the diction, thought, spectacle, and melody and songs. Actually, in his view, diction and melody and songs are the elements of imitation, because Aristotle has based his literary idea on the power of mimicry, mimesis, and imitation. A spectacle or mise en scène is the way of the imitation. You're imitating the setting from the real world and make it similar on the stage. And plot And characters are the subject of imitation. When an action and what characters do in real world are being imitated in the drama or a play, and the play is made. So, to be sure, there are other approaches to analysis, but this one is sufficiently flexible and universally applicable to be useful with almost any type of play, no matter whether it is ancient, whether it is modern or postmodern, whatsoever. Now, if we consider these elements, as I mentioned, plot, character, thought, diction, music, and the spectacle, uh, that will suffice for applying it on any kind of plays, whether it is in 5 acts, in 3 acts, or in 1 act. It doesn't make any difference. Let us begin with plot, a subject that is considered by Aristotle as the most important factor in any play. Plot is often considered to be merely the summary of a play's incidents, although it includes the play's storyline. It also refers to the play's organization, so that plot includes the action and the specific organization of the action. Can you see any difference between plot and a story? Do you know the difference? They are not the same. They are a little bit different, although they seem to be the same, but actually they are not. And their meaning deviates in a place. As you could see, and I have mentioned, plot is the storyline of the play. Story deals with the incidents that take place in a story, no matter whether it is a play or a novel or a short story or a narrative poem. When incidents take place one after another, chronologically according to the time sequence, it is a story. But when we deal with the cause and effects of those incidents, we are talking about, in this way, we are talking about plot. So the difference between a story and plot is that the story are the incidents taken place one after another chronologically, but the plot is the same thing but deals with the plan of the representation of the incidents according to their cause and effects. Most frequently, the place, occasion, characters, mood, fundamental motifs, and the framework are established in the opening scenes of a play, usually, or most frequently. Maybe not always, but this is the most frequent case. This is called exposition, because everything begins with these pieces of information. Yes, the story is about the who, what, and where within your concept. Yes, of course. And what is going to happen, by whom, what has happened, by whom, why, for what reasons, and what is the outcome, of course. Yes. Story is the collection of events. Plot is the events core reason behind the story. Exactly, Safa. Very good, very good. Yes. So exposition, I'm going to write it down in the box. Exposition, as the name clearly shows, begins with X. Posing means bringing out, giving information. That is, information about earlier events, indirectly of characters, um, and talks about the identity of the characters and events leading up to the present scene. So, exposition are kind of information about earlier events that have taken place before we have started the play, the identity of characters, who they are, what kind of characters they are, and events leading up to the present scene. And what has happened before, that we have come now to this particular certain situation that we are seeing it on the stage being dramatized by the characters. For example, when we are dealing with Macbeth, we know that in the exposition we are informed that there has been some wars going on between the Scottish and the British, and during these wars, a very brave military man called Macbeth has taken part in these clashes, and he was, according to his brevity and bravery, he has been able to kill lots of the enemies, and they have won the war. So King Duncan, the King of Scotland, is coming to his palace in order to praise him, to thank him for what he has done. And the story begins from, the play starts from that moment on. So the amount of exposition found at the beginning of most plays is determined in play by the point of attack, the moment at which the action starts. So the moment that the action starts is called point of attack. Let me write it down here. Point of attack. Shakespeare, for example, uses an early point of attack, that is he begins the action very near the start of the story that he is going to show and dramatize on the stage, and unfolds the events in chronological order. Consequently, the needs to provide relatively little information about prior occurrences, the things that have happened before. So Greek tragic playwrights, however, use late point of attack, which require considerable exposition because the plays actually depict only the final parts of the story, like what we see in Sophocles' Oedipus Rex or Antigone. So lots of things happen before. What we see on the stage are the very last part of the incidents and what is going to happen uh, to the main characters. So most plays, remember that Shakespeare's plays are considered to be modern plays, not ancient plays, because they have different kind of characteristics that were different from their ancient plays. Most plays quickly focus attention on a question, conflict, or theme through what is sometimes called the inciting incidents. I'm going to write it down. Inciting incidents. It's just like they are giving some knots, putting some knots, some crisis in the story in order to make it much more exciting and create suspense for the rest of the story. An occurrence that sets the dramatic action into motion. Actually, we can explain inciting incidents or inciting forces. Instead of incidents, we can write forces, which is the occurrence that sets the dramatic action into motion. For example, in Sophocles' Antigone, Antigone determination to bury her brother despite Creon's prohibition of the burial initiates the action and the thread that holds all the action altogether. So the conflict between the two opposing points of view, one is Antigone, the other is Antigone did not kill his brother. His brother was killed in the war against Creon. So Creon did not let his body to be buried in their lands. But Antigone insisted that according to he insisted that his brother's corpse should be buried in their lands because gods, mythological gods, want them to do that. This is a kind of a tradition that should be done. And Creon negating this, rejecting this. Okay. At the opening of any play, the story has the potential of developing in almost any direction. Once action is set in motion, however, complications arises, narrowing the possibilities of action and thereby creating increasing suspense. And this is something that motivates the audiences and the readers of the play to move on. So a complication is any new element that alters direction of the action. Complications. Complication is any new element that alters direction of the action. Usually, a complication is introduced by a discovery or new information. The things that the characters did not know before, and now they have find it out. So this is discovery. Through discovery or by gaining new information. Opposition to a plan, identity of character, and unforeseen dilemma. You know what dilemma means? Dilemma deals with when the character, let me write it down. Because this used a lot. When the characters, or even human beings, every living human beings, if we are in a situation that we have to make a choice, both of them unpleasant, but you have to make one choice out of two or many. For example, the character goes home and sees that his home is burning. The home is burning. He has few minutes to either save his children or their mother, his wife. And he has to decide between saving his children or child and the mother, his wife. Which one to choose? This situation is called dilemma because it's very difficult. Yes, when you have to make a decision in a situation which is not pleasant, whatever choices you make, you are going to lose something at the end. So it is not pleasant at all. It's very difficult to make a decision. This is called dilemma. The choices that we have to make in very specific situations that are very, very difficult to make, and they are very painful. So whatever choice you make, at the end, you are going to regret. So this dilemma is not only a part of our everyday life, but also is a part of the decisions that the characters are going to make, not only in plays, but in novels, in in narrative poetry, or in short stories, because the characters always, in many cases, they face such situations. Okay, so by discovery of new information, opposition to a plan, identity of character, and unforeseen dilemma, or some other new elements. The steps taken to meet the new demands give rise to tensions. So what is the outcome of this is tension. It is called tension. These leads into giving rise to tensions and conflicts. And we know conflict, what conflict is. Conflicts can be either internal or external. Sometimes we are conflicting with ourselves, with the ideas and the decisions that we have to make, and we don't know which one to make. So this is a kind of an internal conflict that we have with our feelings, with our knowledge, and we want to make a decision, even with egos, as you have mentioned. Yes. Sometimes it is external, the conflict between one man with another man, either physically or psychologically, or when we have different kinds of ideas with other people. Sometimes even it is present in sports, for example. Yes, competitive or opposing actions of incompatibilities somehow. Yes, good. So sometimes in some sports, the conflict is direct between two persons. For example, in boxing, in karate, in judo, in wrestling. But sometimes the two sides are from different parts, such as volleyball, for example. They stand um, face to face, but from each group that are conflicting with each other, and we want to um, win the compet. They stand at the different sides of uh, the net. Or tennis, for example. They do not have any contact, but they are conflicting with each other. Sometimes it is through their minds, like chess, playing chess, or backgammon. So they are facing each other, but they are going to conflict with their minds, um, wrestling with each other through the decisions that they make for the moves uh, on the screen. Yes, Saddam, something like that. So sometimes the person is external, the examples of the external conflict is facing with the society, with the, as you have mentioned, with the traditions, with the ideas, with the things that they do not, with politics, with social concerns, and things like that. Sometimes it is against, yes, even love, of course. Sometimes it is against the natural forces, such as earthquake, flood, eruptions, earth eruptions, volcanoes, tsunamis. They are the natural incidents that human beings have to encounter, to face with. This is called conflict. And it is a very important part um, in any story, and usually we have it in all kind of literary genre, if they are telling a story, of course, that often lead to a new discovery or revelation, which may bring about a reversal of the situation through the unexpected outcome of some plan. Sometimes it is not exactly, the things do not happen exactly according to what we anticipate to happen. They turn out to be totally different from what we have expected to take place. So sometimes this happens in a reverse form. There will be a reversal in our expectations. As characters and events are more and more developed through the course of the play, and as an increasing number of complications arise, alternative choices of action are progressively reduced. The alternative choices of action are progressively reduced when we are when the characters in the story and events are more and more developed. The inciting actions, the tying up the knots for creating suspense, according to the conflict and all the things, they are getting more and more severe and intense, and there will be the limitation of the choices. So in this way, we are pushed, or the story is pushed toward reaching the highest point of the play, which is called the turning point or summit of the story. As characters and events are more and more developed, and as an increasing number of the complications arise, alternative choices of action are progressively reduced. As a result of this, the audience comes to sense the specific or dominant direction of the action, and as possible actions are further and further narrowed down, a feeling of imminent crisis approaches. When things get very intense and the choices are limiting and limiting and limiting, so the imminent crisis start to pop up. And finally, a moment arrives when the alternatives have been so reduced that the next discovery will answer the major questions posed at the beginning of the play. After the exposition, if you remember, we said that there are actions taken place in order to create suspense based on the choices and the events that makes rising actions that usually they makes crisis. And then we reach to a point that one decision, one action, one specific event make a discovery, that this discovery will solve all our questions and problems that has been created in our mind according to the incidents on the stage from the very beginning of the play. And this is the crisis or peak toward which the play builds. Crisis. That the whole story is around that crisis. It is also called the peak of the story. Or summit of the story. Saja, Zahir, welcome to the class because I think it is your first session. I didn't mean what you get. I want play to study it. Okay. I think I have chosen a play for you. Let me see if I have or not. Saja Rahbar. Okay. I will choose one for you and I will let you know. Okay? Don't worry. I will do that. And I will write it down in the presentation style sheet and send it to the group. If you are not a member of the group which has been made in the WhatsApp, ask your friend to add your name to the group. Okay, Saja? Good. So, as we have mentioned, this situation is called crisis or peak toward which the play builds, after which there is a gradual release of tension, leading to the resolution. So what comes after the peak is very quickly we are leading toward resolution, or it is also called dénouement, which is a French word. I'm going to write it down. Dénouement. It is written denouement, but it is pronounced dénouement. Is anyone else have a Okay, thank you, Saddam, for letting me know about that. Hiba? It's okay. She's going to present Death of a Salesman. She has decided to present Death of a Salesman. Eba is a woman's name or a man's name? Let me know. Yeah. Uh-huh. So this is a man's name, I think, huh? Maybe. I made a mistake. Yes, that's it. That's it. Yes. Correct. Correct. Yes. Just chosen the salesman, and I have written this for her. So we're talking about dénouement. In French, it's untying the knots. Untying the knots. In rising actions, we had tying the knots, but here, after the peak and the actions that have taken place after that, which moves toward the resolution or denouement, the knots are open one by one. And the problems are solved. All the problems that have been pushed forward in the rising actions, now, after the peak, they start to open one by one and solved one by one in the falling action. So the resolution creates a sense of a completion and fulfillment. The audience now being able to see how the ending has come about, even if it could not have predicted it. This is very common, that when we start reading a story, either in the form of a play or a novel or a short story or a narrative poem, poetry, we start making some anticipations about what is going to happen next, or what will be the end of how the story is going to end. Sometimes, to our surprise, the ending is quite different. Sometimes it is in line with our predictions, but in most cases, this is different. Remember that not all plays present a conflict or a clear-cut series of complications leading to a resolution. This is not the nature of all plays. This is so because a structure is related to the playwright's vision of the reality. So everything goes back to the ideas and the visions of the playwright and how they perceive the reality and what they think about the reality. Until quite recently, most dramatists viewed the world as essentially orderly, a place where cause to effect principles operated everywhere and were discernible to those who observed carefully, which is the kind of essentialist point of view about reality, that reality is fixed and it is only one and the only way of seeing the reality. But in modern and specifically postmodern world, we do not have such a perception because they believe in multiplicity of different meanings that we may have toward the same thing. So the reality is not fixed. Reality may be in our perceptions, the way we see it personally. So it is not necessarily the same. It may happens according to our, I mean, we manage to understand the reality according to our ideology or according to uh, our religious beliefs or the way we believe in science or whatsoever. Anything that acts as a meta-narrative for giving a kind of a structure in reaching into the meaning of the reality. Postmodernists, for example, they believe that there is no such fixed way of looking on things only from one direction. So all of these things that I've just mentioned may cause our perception about reality. Um, the same idea, somehow in a different way, is presented in phenomenology as well, that all the phenomenon taking place in the world, according to the perception of the one who looks at that phenomenon, may be different. So in the world we are facing with different kind of perceptions of reality. So reality is not fixed. The play of these dramatists, who are essentialists, therefore reflected an orderly worldview, a series of connected events which progressed in a pattern composing an easily perceivable pattern of beginning, middle, and end. So this is the routine. Each story should have a beginning, middle, and end. So the old perception is by the playwrights is that every play should have these three stages. So each play should have a beginning, middle, and end. But many contemporary dramatists view reality as chaotic, like modern uh, writers. Our world as a place of seemingly accidental events with little apparent relationship to each other. So the structure of their plays, therefore, reflects this unpredictability and randomness. So it is not fixed like the more essentialist playwrights. So the such plays, those of, for example, Samuel Beckett, for example, that we are going to study during the term, Waiting for Godot, Endgame, and many other plays by Beckett that are considered both modern and postmodern, are unified through idea of theme, of existence in a world that has lost its bearings. For their fundamental subject is uncertainty and loss of direction. So the modern, or in most cases, postmodern drama, we have this sense of uncertainty and loss of direction, which is totally different from the more traditional views existed among the more essentialist writers. The next important um, notion that is very crucial when we are analyzing a play is character. Character is the primary element out of which plots are created because events evolves from the speech and actions of the dramatic persons. If there are not characters, how can the events and actions be represented on the stage? They are represented by the characters. So characters are very crucial and essential in a play. Characterization, then, is the playwright's means of differentiation one person from another that makes a clear-cut differences that exist between the characters. To accomplish this differentiation of character, playwrights generally provide four types of information about them. The first type of information is physical, how they look like, what they wear, what they do, the size, the sex, the age, the color they are. For example, Othello is a Moor in Shakespeare's plays. So he had a dark skin. He's a man, or he's a woman, he's a child. How or what is the age of it? Old man, middle age, young, a child. What is the size? Big, slim, skinny, fat, overweight, just like Falstaff, for example, in Shakespeare's plays, and so on. Sometimes a script does not supply much physical information, but it is filled in when the play is produced, since actors necessarily give concrete form to the characters. So the second type is social. Um, Let me write these down in order to make it easier for you to have access to it. So first of all, we have characterization. Sorry, it takes a little bit of time. Forgive me about that. Yeah, I was talking about different types of information that the playwright is going to express about his or her characters. So the first piece of information is physical, as I have mentioned, which is limited to external appearance, sex, age, size, color, and so on. And sometimes a script does not supply much physical information, but it is filled uh, when the play is produced. The second type is social. As the name clearly shows, it includes a character's economic status, rich or poor or middle class, profession or trade, whatever trade he or she is in, merchant, um, a state governor, part of the body of the state governor, and things like that. Family relationships, and other factors that place him in his environment. The third type is psychological, which deals with the inner workings of the mind which precede action. Since drama most often arises from conflicting desires, psychological information is the most essential aspects of the characterization. As you have referred to it before, I remember. So the psychology of the characters and what they do and what they think is going to be very important. And the fourth is moral or ethical, whether they are following the moral codes or what is their ethics, whether they are ethical persons or no, they actually neglect ethical um, standards and these kind of things. So all plays have a moral implications, but most plays keep moral elements at an implicit level. So serious plays, for example, however, to emphasize a character's moral choice because of its dramatic consequences. More than any other kind of choice, moral decisions differentiate characters meaningfully since the choices they make when faced with ethical crisis reveal significant aspects of character. So qualities such as selfish, honest, altruistic, which means unselfishness, hypocritical, etc. Moreover, a moral decision usually forces a character to examine his or her own motives and values, in the process of which his true nature is shown both to himself or herself and to the audience at the same time. Um, Characterization is revealed through various other means as well, through description in stage directions, prefaces, or other explanatory material not part of the dialogue or action. We are not going to gain this information from what we see on the stage or how it is given to us as the audiences or the readers by the action of the characters or by the other characters or through the dialogue of the characters, but um, through what the character says, through what others says about the character, and most important, through what the character does. So these are the different ways that can provide us with the information about the characters that we see on the stage. In assessing characterization, it is not enough merely to make a list of traits. It is also necessary to ask how the character functions in the action. This is very important. how the character functions in the action, why the character is there, why his actions and thoughts and what he or she says are important. For example, the audience needs to know little about the maid who appears only to announce dinner. Any detailed characterization would be superfluous and distinctly and distracting. So the principal character in a serious play, however, will need to be drawn in great detail. So if the character is important, if the character is going to play a very important role in the actions of the play, they should be thoroughly and perfectly presented, either through their actions or through the information that we get uh, about what other people say about them, or what the character himself or herself says about how he feels, and how his or her emotions uh, are, in what condition they are. For example, like Hamlet. When Hamlet, um, of course, yes. When we are talking about the ethics and morals, we are dealing with the right and wrongs conducts presented by the characters according to the beliefs of the society and the 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 codes that most of the um, people of a specific culture, either specifically or universally, believe in as ethics, because something, some actions are ethical in some part of the world, but in other part of the world they are not ethical at all. They are against morality. So we have to pay attention also to the geography of the play, where it is going to happen. It is not necessarily deals with the tragedy. It can happen in epics, pastoral epics, even in comedies as well. So it is important, always. Neither in life nor in drama it is easy to perceive a person's true character, since information in both cases is given in fragments over a considerable period of time. So it is impossible to know a character fully by watching a play, because in a short span of time, it is impossible uh, to reach the complete knowledge about a character, because the information are given in fragmented forms, um, and it is impossible to do that. So many different and often contradictory pieces of information and concrete evidence of character may be given. Because the dramatist builds character through a composite of information, so the audience must be attentive to all elements of characterization in order to decide which statements and actions are to be accepted as accurate revelations of characters. So when we are dealing with Shakespeare's plays, the information that we get about, as I have said, Hamlet or Macbeth or Othello or, I don't know, Antony, Cleopatra, Romeo and Juliet, and many other famous characters, it is impossible to get every minute information about their characterization. So the third basic part of the play is thought. Thought consists of elements such as theme, music, and song. Generally speaking about it, a reader sorry, let me complete I've just mentioned about thought. So when we are talking about theme, to be more precise, we are talking about, thought. We're talking about the theme of the play, the argument that is presented in it, the overall meaning of the play, the focus that the play is making on a specific um, ideas, or the significance that that play has. So thought is more frequently implied than stated directly. This is something that we have to get it out of the play by ourselves. It is not being obviously presented um, that we can pinpoint it. We have to be sensible to the elements, to the actions, to the act of the characters, all the information that we get through the play, and try to get into the insight that makes the thought behind all the actions that are taking place in the play. So a reader discovers it in the relationship among characters, the feelings associated with the sympathetic and unsympathetic characters, the conflicts and the resolutions, and such elements as verbal imagery, spectacle, music, and song that I have written it at the top. These are actually the ways, by paying attention to those things, we can get to the main thought, which is implied in the text. It is not presented directly. It is not graspable. It is not obvious. You cannot grasp it from the very beginning or even to the end. We have to be sensitive. We have to be intelligent in order to get the specific idea that the writer, the playwright, actually wanted us to see and know about the play and why the play has been written. So occasionally a message is clearly stated in drama, but this is rare to be presented directly. More often, the meaning or meanings of a play are ambiguous and open to several interpretations. So when I watch a play, when I read a play by my own, printed books, my perceptions, what I have get out of the text and what I thought about it may be, in some cases, be different from what you think about it. Every single person of you that may have read the same play, and we may have some shared ideas together, but we also may have some different ideas about the idea, the main idea that exists in the text and behind all the actions and the representations of the play. So to many people, ambiguity is unsettling. And some people have used the diversity of interpretations of the same script to discount the value of all criticism. But ambiguity is characteristics of practically all human experience. Few, if any, experiences have clear-cut, unarguable meanings. This is not very usual that we have a clear-cut experience about something. Most of the human experiences are actually due to this ambiguity. Life does not come so neatly wrapped. This is a fact. And we are completed to ponder our experiences, try to find meaning in them, and then perhaps to learn from them in order to act more wisely in the future. And this is exactly the function of the literature. I mean, the playwright, like other um, writers and authors, poets or novelists or shorter story writers, they try to express and to communicate a new kind of experience that either they had themselves and represented in the work, or it is fictionally has been created and posed through their plays. So we are compelled to ponder our experiences, try to find meaning in them, and then perhaps to learn from them in order to act more wisely in the future. But we are seldom, if ever, certain that we have found the answer. This is not the case. Even we are not sure about our experiences and the decisions that we make. Since human experience is the raw material of drama as the main important actually food for the drama to be written, so that the dramatist who sees no ambiguities in life will very likely create an oversimplified world in his place, because in our ordinary life we do not have such clear-cut incidents. Because the playwright is concerned with the patterns that underlines the infinite detail of life, he must or she must eliminate what he or she considers unimportant. So he or she selects, arranges, and shapes his material or her material, and in so doing, he or she creates implications, which may be few or many. So since we have reached the end of the class, I have to stop. Next week, we are going to have our first presentation and the first play presented in the field of realism in drama. And it is going to be presented by Mr. Safa Saddam. I will send the presentation style sheet with new dates and extra the date of the makeup classes and to the group, so you can have access to them and know how and when to prepare your presentations. Okay, thank you very much indeed for your presence in the class. um, if you do not have any question, I leave you to the next session. Till then, take care of yourselves. Have a good weekend ahead and a week ahead, and see you next Monday in the same class, same hour. Okay, thank you very much indeed, and goodbye.